Hey guys, this is Carl from carlsapsy.com here with another tutorial. If you have any questions about my videos or anything in general, head to my website and you can message me via my Contact Me page. Or if you want to, just leave me a message down below in the comment section and like my videos and subscribe to me if you want to. So what we're going to be looking at today is the use of constructors in Java. Now, constructors are a very fundamental part of programming in Java, and they can be used to assign default values as well as creating or as well as allowing user input to assign new values to attributes or variables. So if you remember from last time, we had a class called person, and this is what the class said. So we had a name and age, a hair color, eye color, and year at school, as well as they had different types, so they had different types of string and int. We then also created a method called called talk, which was a void type, which meant that it doesn't return anything, and we were able to print out these statements based upon the user input. Now we're going to be using constructors. So we're going to take the same example, but we're going to manipulate it so it uses a constructor instead. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste everything within the class. So I'm going to exit this, and I'm going to go into new class, and I'm going to call this person constructor. So I'm person con. That's my new class name. So I'm going to do it down here. Sorry about that. Anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and paste all of this in, and it's exactly the same. So it will still compile completely fine. A constructor has the same name as the class. So when you're declaring a new constructor, it doesn't have a type because it doesn't have a return type as it's a constructor, so it's not actually returning anything. So it's not void, but it's not going to be a return type of int, of float, of boolean, or whatever. So we can just down here we will say public, and then since it has to have the same name as the constructor, as the class type, so it'll be person con, because that's the class name. But as it's a method, we also have to have parentheses because all methods can have the ability to take arguments, or parameters, as some may call it. Okay, so and then we can have scope, in which we're going to write some code. As there are no parameters in this particular constructor, this is known as our default constructor. So I'll put this here, so default, D-E-F-A-U-L, default constructor. And within the default constructor, we are going to have certain values. So we can take the ID of the name, so we're going to say name, and we're going to say, what will default value be? So that'll be none. We can have age, as that is of integer type, we can say 0. Hair color will be black, and eye color would be black as well. And year at school would equal 0. Now, each of these values relate directly back to the attributes that we are using. Okay, so in this particular constructor, we are using the value of we're taking the type name, we're taking the variable name, which is of type string. Therefore, we must assign it a string. Therefore, we must assign it of string type. Okay, and we have to do this. And if we don't, then you'll get errors. Okay, one thing you must also notice is that if you are using a local variable, so if you're using a variable within a method or within a constructor, and if you don't assign it something, whether it's a value or whether it's the value of the parameter, then you will then it won't actually have a value at all. Okay, so you must assign it a default value before using it, because local local variables do not have a default value. Compared to attributes in the class which do, so the string originally would be called none, int would be 0, string none, float would be 0.00, double would be 0.00, boolean I would have one of the boolean conditions which I think is false. But anyways, so over here we've got our no argument constructor. And if we compile it, then it'll say no syntax errors. And what we can do is put this into practice. So I'm going to instantiate a new person. So I'm going to make a new person called Carl. So the way we do this is I'm going to make a new class first of all, and I'm going to call this con app. So constructor app. Okay, and within it I'm going to take out all the information like normal, and I'm going to say public static void main string args. Okay, so there we go. So now we have our main method, and the first thing I'm going to do is instantiate a new object of type person con. So that's where we're getting it from. So say person con, call this Carl is equal to new person con. Now what this does is this initially will call upon the person con no argument constructor. So when I go ahead and type in carl.talk, which is our method within person con, so if I were to close the parentheses and make sure it's laid out correctly, so if I were to go back into person con, as you can see here, it's going to call upon this no argument constructor. So I can maybe just make this a bit neater. Okay, yeah. So if I were to go and run this, so compile it, no errors, con app, void main string args, okay, and here you go. So it says my name is none, my age is 0, I have black coloured hair, black coloured eyes, and I'm in year 0. The reason for this is because, as I just mentioned, the no argument constructor has been called, so therefore these values have been assigned to the values in the attributes, which are then printed out in the method. Okay, so it says here that my name is plus name. Name originally is none because the no argument constructor is called. And the same thing applies to each of the other variables, or to the other attributes. Now, let's say I wanted to, include some form of user input. Okay, so as of now, we can't really do anything because, well, we don't have any values assigned to it. So we go back into our class app, and I'm going to make another constructor. And I'm going to call this public person con again, because the constructor name must always take the name of the class. However, depending on the number of parameters or attributes that you're using, the number of parameters you're using, then Java will automatically locate that particular constructor. So I'm going to go ahead and type in string n, which will relate back to string name. I'm going to have int age, so int a, string h for hair color, string e for eye color, and int y for years at school. The reason you have to put string, int, string, and int in is because you are effectively creating a new variable, or you're assigning a attribute to the parameter, or vice versa. Sorry, assigning the that's correct. You're assigning the attribute to the parameter. So when I write this, I'm going to say name is equal to n. Age is equal to a. Hair color is equal to h. Eye color is equal to E, and year at school is equal to Y. Okay, and then close this all off, make sure this is, okay, there you go. So this is my parameterized constructor. So this has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll call this my 5 argument constructor. Now when I run it, if I were to put values into my constructor in the main application, then Java will automatically locate the parameterized constructor rather than the default constructor, or the no argument constructor. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear this, and I'm going to exit and open up my app. So let me instantiate a new person. So I'm going to call this person Con, and I'm going to call this Johnny, and Johnny's going to be a new person, so new person Con. And within here, I can now take values. So I can say the name is Johnny, the age is 17, the hair color is brown, eye color would be, I guess, brown again, and the year would be 12. Automatically, when I invoke the method talk, so if I were to do system.out.println, okay, just to separate them, as soon as I invoke talk on Johnny, it's going to take the values of the parameter and not of the default constructor, because Java has automatically located the constructor which has got the parameters. Okay, so Johnny.talk. Okay, so now if I were to go ahead and run this application, as you can see here, it says under the name Carl, it says my name is none, my age is 0, I have black colored hair, black colored eyes, and I'm in year 0. Because this calls upon the default constructor. This one calls upon my parameterized constructor, which says my name is Johnny, I am 17, I have brown colored hair, brown colored eyes, and I'm in year 12. So that's the use of constructors. It allows you to assign new values, or assign values depending on the parameters you're using and whether or not it's a default constructor. Remember, you don't have to have a default constructor. However, depending on what actions you do, sometimes the default constructor will be automatically created and automatically referred to, and it will use the default types of each of them. So, for example, name is none in any case. An object reference would be null. The age would be 0. Hair color would initially be none. Eye color again would be none, and year at school would be 0. So you can also have other constructors. So let's say I only wanted to know the name and the age of a person. So I can make a public person Con, and the name, so I'd say string n int a. Okay, and so name is equal to n, age is equal to a. Okay, so this is now my, and this is another constructor. Notice how I've used the same parameter names. As their parameter names, I can name this value anything. I can name it W, I could name it anything I'd like. If I'm doing that, then obviously I have to make them agree. So name would equal, in this case, n, but if string was W, then I'd call it W. In the next tutorial, I'm going to be going through how to use the this keyword and how that can also make life a bit easier. However, the this keyword is not necessarily needed at all times. Okay, so if I were to, so this is a 2 argument constructor, or yeah, 2 argument constructor. Compile it, and now let's say I'm going to make a third person. So person Con let's call this person Amy, and we'll say new person con, and we only wanted the name and the age, so this one would be Amy, and let's say the age was 21. So now Java will locate the constructor which has got 2 arguments in it in this order. Okay, so it's always going to look for the first parameter, then the second parameter. And now let me just go ahead and copy and paste this so we have separation. Okay, and then we'll say amy.talk. Compile this, run it, okay. Now what's actually happened here is that it said my name is Amy, my age is 21. However, since I've called the method talk, since I'm not actually assigned any of these values, it's going to give me I have null colored hair, I have null colored eyes, and I'm in year 0. So therefore, what you can do is, in a future tutorial, which I will show you, I will show you how you can just print out the certain or the specific statements that you actually need. So that's how you can call, that's the use of constructors, is what I've shown you today. If you have any other questions or anything, then feel free to leave me an email down, a comment down below, or feel free to email me via my website. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. This is Carl from carlsapti.com.